In real life, they were not at all what they seemed to be on TV. Life was getting ready for their big return to TV when one of the actresses tried to get rich without the others knowing. They didn't talk to each other for months because of how bad the betrayal was. Norman Lear, a TV star, couldn't fix it before he died. Fans are shocked to learn which famous person broke up their friendship for good, and no one thought it would be that person. NBC had a lot of problems in 1979. It had the worst numbers of the three main TV networks. Little House on the Prairie was the only show that was doing well. The rest didn't do well at all. One of the worst was Super Train, which tried to be a glamorous love boat on rails but failed horribly. A lot of money was spent by NBC, but nothing was gained. The network needed help badly. Different Strokes was one show that wasn't a complete bust. Nobody loved it, but many did enjoy it, mostly because of Gary Coleman. At the time, Fred Silverman was in charge of NBC. He knew they had to make the most of anything that was working. He had helped CBS and ABC do well in the past, and now he was trying to save NBC. He took a chance. NBC started a new show called The Facts of Life in the summer of 1979. It was a spin-off from the show Different Strokes. At first, not many people watched it. It was ranked 74th out of 79 shows that summer. The first season looked like it would fail again, but the second season changed everything. The show took off right away after some big changes were made to how it was put together. The Facts of Life was NBC's best comedy by the end of its third season. Charlotte Rae is a big part of that success. In the TV show Different Strokes, she played Edna Garrett, the maid. Rae did more than just act. People called her a character actress because she could play strong, different parts. This woman had been in the business for a long time and was good at what she did. She thought of something. What if she had her own show with her character, having a job at a school for girls? She told NBC about the idea, but she also said she could return to Different Strokes if the spin-off didn't work out. That way, it wouldn't hurt her job. It was a good idea. NBC Fred Silverman decided to make Mrs. Garrett's character into a separate show before the first season of Different Strokes was even over. Never heard of that before. He didn't follow the rules, though. He went with his gut. It was his goal to bring big shows to NBC, just like he had done for other networks. Norman Lear was to make Different Strokes, and he knew that Lear liked working with Charlotte Rae. She had been on some of Lear's other shows before. She got the job as the maid right away thanks to Silverman. Then he did it again. He gave Rae her own show before he knew if people really liked the character. It was part of his bigger plan to change the shows on NBC. That plan would eventually lead to big hits like Cheers, Hill Street Blues, and Stained Elsewhere. But life's facts were the first thing that set it off. Charlotte Rae went to the Westlake School for Girls in Bear to do study for a follow-up to Different Strokes in 1979. She wasn't there to find ability. She was just getting to know the place. But then something strange happened. Norman Lear and the girl were given a 13-year-old student named Mindy Kahn to show them around the school. Mindy had never lived a play. She was just being herself. It's funny, charming, and not edited at all. That was enough. She was so interesting to Rae and Lear that they made up a new character just for her. Mindy got the part without even trying out. They named her Natalie Green. She did her schoolwork every night while being on a hit TV show, like nothing had changed. In their minds, it was the same as her joining the tennis team. At the same time, Kim Fields, a young girl, was getting ready for a performance that she almost didn't go to. There were bigger girls in the room who looked like they belonged on magazine covers when she walked in. She was only 9 years old. They were about to leave, but her mom stopped her. Kim was having a bad day. She told her in the bathroom not to let anyone or anything stop her, not even her fears. That speech helped. Even though she was meant to play a 12-year-old, Kim got the part of Tootie. She was only too small, though. They had to think of clever ways to make her look taller than the other girls. They gave her roller skates. It worked so well that it became a part of her character and one of the most recognizable facial quirks on the show. And Molly Ringwald was there for the first season as well. In the role she played when she was 11, she was a socially aware girl named Molly Parker who played the guitar and spoke her mind. In the beginning, there were 7 girls like her on the show. Things changed after the first season didn't do well. The network wanted to narrow the focus, and Molly was thought to be too young for the new path. She was fired, along with most of the original group. She went through a terrible thing. She later said that being dropped made her feel bad, but it didn't last long. She was the lead in 16 Candle, The Breakfast Club, and Pretty in Pink, and became one of Hollywood's most popular teen stars in just a few years. It was a mess when The Facts of Life began in 1979. Too many people were in the group, the writing wasn't very good, and not many people were watching. It looked like another spin-off that was lost. After one season, NBC was ready to end it. But one boss wouldn't let it go away. A rising star at NBC named Brandon Tartikoff saw great things ahead. He fought so the show could go on, even when the famous Norman Lear, who helped make it, didn't want anything to do with it. Lear didn't like the show at all and asked that his name be taken off the credits. He still made about $30 million from it in the end. It was a gold mine for the show he didn't even want. Everything changed after the second season. They cut the group right away. In the first version, there were 7 girls, but all of a sudden, 5 of them were gone. There were no big goodbye shows. There was no real reason. There was just more attention on 3 girls, Blair, Natalie, and Tutty. Molly Ringwald, who was young at the time, was one of the girls who fell. This was before she became a big movie star. It was dangerous. People were confused. Blair used to think the younger girls were less important than her, but all of a sudden she acted like they were best friends. But the tighter group gave the show more direction, even though the change was awkward. It became more like a real story instead of a mess. Jo then came. She was dressed as Jo Polachk, a tough girl from the Bronx who rode a motorbike and wore a leather jacket. In her first scene, she was covered in grease and fighting with Blair. Everything changed when they caught a spark. Some people thought McCann was too rough around the edges at first, but friends quickly warmed up to her. Jo made the show more interesting. It seemed real to her. It wasn't all fun behind the scenes. McKeon later said that it was hard to grow up on the show. The actors were only kids, and they were always being told how they looked and how much they weighed. She told me years later, "You're basically filming someone going through puberty." Sometimes the spotlight wasn't nice. The show also moved. The girls worked under Mrs. Garrett, who was now the school dietitian, in the school cafeteria instead of the dorm. This gave the writers more freedom. It felt less like a sleepover and more like a place to work. There were funny, weird, and even crazy moments, like when someone stole lobster from the school kitchen. That was one rich prep school. Then the ratings took off. In just 1 year, The Facts of Life went from being NBC low, estrated sitcom to one of its high, estrated. A new time slot helped, but it was the retooling that really made the difference. By season 3, it wasn't just doing well. It was NBC #1 comedy, beating the show that started it, Different Strokes. People watched for more than just the jokes, they watched for the heart. This wasn't just a show about school uniforms and food fights. It dealt with real issues like racism, drugs, eating disorders, and even suicide, and it didn't sugarcoat them. For example, Lisa Whelchel, who played Blair, asked to miss an episode about teen sex because of her religious views, but NBC showed it anyway with a parental advisory. It still made it to the top 25 that week, and the theme song became a classic. Those 3 people wrote the catchy line, "You take the good, you take the bad," and Luring sang it. It changed a little over the years, but people still sang along. Thicker once said, writing a theme song was like writing a 24-second pitch for the whole show. His pitch worked. It's hard to believe how close the show was to ending, but with a few brave moves, things turned around. A new cast, a new setting, and new energy made what started as a mess into one of the longest-running sitcoms of the 1980s. All it took was a second chance and some hard work to get there. Behind the scenes, things weren't going so well. When Mindy Kahn came back to the set of The Facts of Life after the summer break, she looked a little different. She had become more active, her metabolism had changed, and her body had naturally slimmed down, like many teenagers. But the producers didn't praise her for being healthy, they had to talk to her about it. They weren't happy, that's how the producers saw her, as the fat girl, and they wanted her to stay that way. Mindy was shocked. Her character, Natalie, was never called that, but that's how the producers saw her. Mindy's mom wouldn't have it, so she told them no. The teacher told them to go to a real high school and see what girls that age really looked like. Mindy refused to put on weight, so the costume department came up with a different plan. They put her in clothes that were too big on her to make her look heavier on camera. It was all about looks, and no one seemed to care about how unhealthy it could be for a teenage girl to grow up with that much pressure. Things didn't get better when the cameras stopped rolling. At the time, Joan Rivers was one of the most famous comedians in the world. In her routines, she started using facts about life as jokes. She called it the Facts of Life, and the joke stuck. There was no internet back then, but word spread quickly. The girls on the show knew about it because they saw it on TV. Lisa Welch, who played Blair, said they knew exactly what Joan was saying. Mindy remembered that Rivers made it a regular joke by asking her audience if they'd seen the latest episode of The Facts of Life. It made people laugh, and the girls didn't say anything about it on set. They were sick of talking about weight, but it didn't stop. Lisa Welchel had to deal with a different kind of humiliation. The producers put a scale on set and made her weigh herself, sometimes in front of them. It became normal, she said. When the show was off, she thought she'd have a break, but she was sent to weight loss camps instead. They would give her a plane ticket to a fat farm, even though she said she was going home to Texas. She was only 16 years old, and her parents were getting a divorce. Her body was changing, and she wasn't getting any help. She was constantly being judged. One day, the fruit and vegetable sticks were switched out for donuts and cookies at the craft table. She said that the unspoken message that her body wasn't good enough was always there, even if it wasn't mean. The pressure wasn't just physical, it left scars that they lived with for years. Nancy McCann, who started the show when she was 14, talked about what it was like to grow up on camera. From puberty to adulthood, everything was caught on camera, watched and judged. Teenage years are one of the most vulnerable times for body image, and Lisa said that being in the spotlight made it even worse. She said it was like fighting every day because she felt like she was always being watched and judged. That kind of pressure changes how a young person sees themselves. You begin to worry and check your phone all the time. You stop focusing on who you are and start worrying about how you look. Lisa Welchel was only a teenager when she got the part of Blair Warner on The Facts of Life. The show was a big hit, and her character quickly became one of the most popular. Behind the scenes, Lisa had to make a tough choice early on in the show's run. The producers had big plans for Blair. They wanted her to be the first character to lose her virginity. Lisa didn't agree with this, though. She had been a Christian since she was 10 years old, and her faith was a big part of who she was. She didn't think twice when they brought up the idea. She told them straight out, "That's not something I can be a part of." It wasn't just her own beliefs. She also felt responsible to the young viewers who looked up to her. She didn't think such a serious subject could be handled properly in just one episode, crammed in between commercials. She didn't want to take that chance because it could have hurt her career. Most young actors wouldn't have said no to such a big storyline on a popular show, but Lisa did. To her surprise, the producers respected her choice. She later said that they always supported her beliefs, which wasn't always the case in Hollywood. It didn't go away, it just sat in the background. It didn't show up on TV for 7 years. Then, in the last season, the writers decided to bring it back. This time, the story wasn't given to Blair, it was given to Natalie, played by Mindy Kahn. Unlike Lisa, Mindy didn't mind it. People say she said, "Hey, I'll do it." So, near the end of the show's run in 1988, the episode finally aired. Natalie, who was then 21 years old, loses her virginity to her boyfriend Snake. They'd been together for a year, and the episode portrayed it as a mature choice between two adults in a serious relationship. It was a big moment. Some people thought it was funny that a show called The Facts of Life finally talked about sex with characters who were well into their 20s after avoiding one of the most important facts of all time. One critic joked that the show didn't live up to its name because no one had sex until the last season, and by then they were all adults. When the episode aired, NBC didn't treat it like a normal sitcom. They started with a parental advisory that said the content might not be appropriate for kids. It was unusual for a comedy to start with that kind of warning, but the episode did well in the ratings. It came in 22nd that week, which was pretty good. Reactions were mixed. Some liked how the show dealt with the subject. It wasn't cheap or rushed, but others didn't like how the other characters related to it. There were mixed feelings about the episode. Older viewers thought it was honest and thoughtful, while younger viewers thought it was out of date and even a little preaky. Then, in 2001, plans began to make a reunion movie. Most of the cast agreed to come back, but Nancy McCon didn't. According to the official story, it was because she was busy filming The Division, but there was more to it than that. In early talks, she joked that if they brought Joe back, it should be as a ghost, like in The Big Chill. For some reason, that joke stuck. The movie still went ahead and was filmed right before and during September 11, 2001. The reunion told the story of the girls getting together for Thanksgiving. Blair was running a hotel chain. Tutty, now known as Dorothy, was a talk show host, and Natalie brought them all together. Joe didn't show up, but her daughter did. Interestingly, the cast had once promised that they would never make a reunion movie. But things changed over the years, and most of them said yes. In 2019, the 4 original stars finally got back together on screen. This time, it was for Kim Fields' Lifetime Christmas movie, You Light Up My Christmas. She called the women her sisters and made sure they helped choose their costumes and character names. There were many cute references to fans of the old show in the movie. For example, the town's ice rink was named after Charlotte Rae, who had died the previous year. Fans liked this kind act, and one even gave the movie a nearly perfect review online, calling it lighthearted and fun. In December 2021, ABC aired a live special where celebrities reenacted old sitcoms. The shows were The Facts of Life and Different Strokes. It was a huge hit with viewers and critics alike. After the show, big names like Octavia Spencer, Amy Poehler, and Jennifer Aniston all said that The Facts of Life was their favorite. Norman Lear, the famous producer of the show, was watching. He was shocked. He was in his late 90s that so many people still cared about it. So, he did something out of the ordinary. He called the 4 original stars, Mindy Kahn, Lisa Whelchel, Kim Fields, and Nancy McCon. He asked them if they'd be interested in bringing the show back. It was weird because it was still 2022 and everyone was stuck at home because of the pandemic, but the idea of a reboot got them excited. The 4 women started talking seriously. They got together on Zoom to laugh, come up with ideas, and catch up after being apart for years. As an added bonus, Norman Lear joined in. Even though he was old, he gave notes, shared ideas, and helped guide the process. It was the first time in decades that the original cast was working together again, coming up with a modern version of their old show. It felt good and real, but then it all fell apart. The cast had been close for decades, but all of a sudden they stopped talking. Mindy Kahn talked about it in an interview in July 2024, saying that one of the cast members had gone after everyone's back and been secretly trying to get her own spin-off. That move caused a wave of emotions that ended a 40-year friendship. Though, after the betrayal, everything changed. They didn't talk to each other for months, and when they did, it was awkward and shallow. Kahn called it "wie Deutsch" to describe how they talked. It wasn't real friendship anymore, it was just polite, high-level contact. That made it hurt even more. During the pandemic, they were working together on Zoom to build the revival. They came up with ideas and shaped the story, and they were doing all of this with the blessing of legendary producer Norman Lear. Lear even tried to make things better before he died in December 2023, but it was too late. The damage had already been done. By the time Kahn did that interview, it was clear that trust was gone and wouldn't be coming back. She said they didn't want to work together again. That might not sound shocking to most celebrity groups, but it was devastating for this one. They had stood together for years, taking the all for one, one for all motto very seriously. For their own safety, they stuck to decisions they made together and avoided drama. It wasn't just personal, they had already hired a writer for the revival, and real plans were in motion. But when one of them put money before friendship, everything fell apart. Kahn couldn't believe someone would give up such strong, loyal relationships for the chance to become famous on their own. Fans always liked that there was no scandal on the set of Facts of Life. That clean image was part of what made the show special. Then, in February 2024, Lisa Whelchel, Nancy McKeon, and Mindy Kahn all went on the Drew Barrymore show together. For Drew's birthday, they surprised her with a gift bag that only people who worked on Facts of Life used to get. They talked about the good old days, told stories, and honored Charlotte Rae, who played Mrs. Garrett. Drew even choked up and said that the show helped her understand friendship and independence as a child. But when fans watched that scene months later, they noticed something. Kim Fields wasn't there. People started to wonder if she had been left out or if she had chosen not to join. They also wanted to know what that meant for the cast's current friendships. Soon, online detectives took over. After Kahn hinted that fans could figure out who the betrayer was by looking at her current friendships, they started looking through her Instagram. They found even more clues when they saw that Kahn had new pictures with Fields and McCann, but none with Welch. This seemed like a big sign, but not everyone agreed. Some said that Fields wasn't at the Drew Barrymore reunion, which could make her the most likely suspect. Others remembered that Kahn had always said that her character was closest to Joe McCann and Tutty Fields. Many people thought that showed Whelchel was different. Reddit threads went crazy, and fans started comparing Whelchel's behavior to that of characters from the show. Some said it reminded them of Blair, who was ambitious, self-centered, and always looking for attention. By the end of July, most people had decided what they thought. Different news stories said that Whelchel was the one who had lied to everyone. There was no official proof, but the public's opinion was clear. What started as excitement for a long-awaited reunion turned into heartbreak, confusion, and a fandom stuck in the middle. For now, it looks like the group is no longer connected.